CEO, Chief Entertainment Officer, or Chief Executive Officer, depending on who I'm talking to. I'd like to introduce my boss. You want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Alan Johnston and I'm a member of the Millennium Kids Youth Board.
I'm putting on the stopwatch so that I don't run over time. Let me start. Kaya, Wanju, we're on Noongar Budja, and I came to this country 61 and a half years ago. I grew up in the southwest, amongst trees, wetlands, and over the last 61 years, I want you to imagine the timeline of change. I wanted to be a lawyer, photographer, journalist, artist, educator, and Millennium Kids gives me that right. I started as a teacher and I landed in South Perth on the Swan River at a place called Milieu. Milieu is an international migratory bird wetland about 900 metres from the school that I worked at, and they told me, no, you can't go there. You need to know that my family are Basque, and no is not a very good word. It's usually a little bit motivating. By linking the river into the curriculum, we were able to develop a whole school program. And funnily enough, the United Nations heard about it. So before we became a WA thing, we became an international thing. Our young people were invited in 1995 to the first International Children's Conference on the Environment in the UK. I didn't go. I sent 2 children and an adult. Best thing I ever did, because those young people came back empowered and they introduced us to this notion of child's rights and Agenda 21. Imagine putting young people in charge of projects. Pretty bold. Imagine bringing that idea to WA in 1995. I want you to think about that and the word no. Young people formed a steering committee, and we took this Milieu project. Milieu means samphire, by the way. We took this Milieu project and we decided to scale it with young people in charge. The interesting thing about Milieu and our school project was that in 1991, we had a multi-stakeholder committee with CALM, Perth Zoo, the local school, a community member, an elder. And after the 1995 conference, we whacked a kid on as a leader. This project has grown and scaled over the years, but we started in 1996 with the first children's conference in the world run by kids at Perth Zoo with 180 people talking about trees and wetlands, opened by the Premier, closed by the Minister for Environment, with a list of challenges that were sent to state government. You can read them. They're in Hansard. Trees were on the agenda, wetland was on the agenda, collaboration was on the agenda. The United Nations said this of our ridiculous idea: for far too long, we have denied ourselves the opportunity of listening to children, of heeding their pleas for a better world, for a healthy environment, their questionings and their answers. I was 32. I'm not 32 now, and I'm still banging the same drum. I think I was invited here today to be the entertainment, and that's what I'm going to be. Millennium Kids decided to become a not-for-profit in 1999, and we were told unequivocally you cannot have children in charge of an organisation. We actually have members of our council here, and thankfully, in 1999, we found a lawyer who would listen. The lawyer said, if you're really creative, you can have a cooperative board with 15 young people meeting together with 8 council members. And we did that in 1999. Our adults cannot meet without the 15 young board members. So the board and the council meet to oversee our projects. I sit in the middle as the CEO. Olwen is my boss. Through our Green Lab collaboration, we discovered Udrich and a bunch of materials that we could use to create future cities. Interesting thing was, there was a little girl in the room called Zoe, aged about 11, who didn't want to use the Udrich material. She said, they made you think a particular way. She wanted different shapes. She didn't want straight lines. So we chucked out the Udrich material and we went to Ramita and we got a whole lot of natural materials, circle shapes, and it actually changed the amount of canopy that the kids started creating in their future cities. When kids create a future city, their target is around 50%. When we tell them that 30% is the minimum for a healthy planet, a healthy, livable planet, they ask big questions like, how much do we have in WA? Anyone here like to give them the answer? 16%. They're very aware that it's the lowest canopy rate in WA, in Australia, and they want to push those targets up. Millennium Kids has a model. We aim to inspire young people by connecting them with expert advisors, giving them real-world situations, and letting them explore and collaborate to make change. Through this process, we discovered futures thinking. You can do a PhD in futures thinking now. It's about thinking long-term. Creating your 2071 vision is what we decided, and then working towards that. Young people are introduced to this idea that you can create and innovate through education programs, behaviour change programs, design and innovation, changing the rules and regulations, creating incentives and community action. Through their design of projects, they then go to the implementation stage, which is the doing, young people as project managers. There are many people in this room who have worked with Millennium Kids at local government level, right from the beginning stage of consultation around urban canopy. Having young people at the table, not as a sideline event. The young people implement their idea, and then they chucked in a new little red circle. It's called Activate. They decided that our failures over the last 30 years was because we weren't bringing the community along with us on this journey. So the Activate stage will see young people at festivals and events and conferences like this, sharing what they're doing. We have just done a lovely deal with the Como Theatre, which is now going to be a cooperative arts centre, and you'll see some of our work there in the near future. The question the young people want to ask is, how are you going to help them create the 2071 vision? Why 2071? Because most of us in the room won't be here. We also evaluate and celebrate. This is an example of 2071. It's an artwork project that we've done in collaboration with local government and the WA Tree Festival, where young people create their 2071, and then our beautiful Indigenous artist creates an artwork that holds us as adults to account. This Lake Claremont site has a series of objectives, including care for Quenda, cat control, looking at why ravens are now updating on the snake-necked turtle and other wildlife in the area. It looks at revegetation, and we've just added the demise of many trees due to that little pest that seems to be taking hold in our trees. This picture here is a really good example of long-term collaboration with council, a Friends of group, and kids. This site was part of a Wesley project. The trees in the back are part of a Wesley Sculp grant. This project's been running for 30 years. This particular site in the front here is 2018. I want you to hold that in your thinking. In 2018, when we revisited why our greening projects had failed, it was mostly because there had been no succession planning. So once you set up your project, you monitor it, you've got funding for a period of time, you're unable to commit long-term to the site. We revisited this particular part of the project with 45 government, community and university stakeholders at Kings Park about 4 years ago. The 45 people in the room, all adults, were facilitated by a group of young leaders who'd been trained in deliberative democracy by Professor Jeanette Harp-Karps, Emeritus Professor from Curtin University. And they basically were able to play and look at why the work that we'd been doing over the last 30 years was still on the table. If we really reflect and think like a kid, we'll see that all the work that we've been doing is still at this greening planning stage. We looked at the idea that we needed to do visioning together with young people at the table, that you could start as a 1-star and move up to 5 stars, which is acknowledge the natural, social and cultural history of the site, continue to articulate a vision for the future of greening for the site that aligns with the broader community values. A dedicated greening team reports annually to local government. Visioning was one part. We looked at the aim of GreenLab to protect, monitor and increase canopy over time. So this includes similar things to the Planning Commission review for greening, which is monitoring, mapping, identifying land use, creating a record of baseline and determined frequency of monitoring each year. But it goes right through to leadership. I'm going to show you my leadership tool. Our kids want this vision for a healthy, livable planet. And to do that, we need to be seriously thinking about why we're doing the doing. So we have plans, we have 4 case studies, 4 councils. That's the site. So in our little collaboration with Community Wesley, a Friends of group and a local government, we have transformed this site, and we're now monitoring where the different biodiversity can come in with insect surveys, our little snake-neck turtle friends, and we're looking for collaborators and partners to share this idea that young people should be sitting on this decision-making for the greening of the future. I'm now going to hand over to my boss, who's going to give you a little bit of kid thinking. She does the serious bit, by the way.
Growing up opposite a cement plant...
That was the entertainment bit. No, it's all right, don't worry. No, I'm fine. Oh, excuse me, I now would like to introduce Olwen.
Growing up opposite a cement plant during a period of rapid urban desertification, I've experienced firsthand the loss of green canopy and the environmental impact of industrial development. Witnessing these changes in my community sparked the desire within me to seek solutions to mitigate these impacts, and thus began my journey as an advocate for environmental sustainability. Hello, I'm Alwyn Johnstone, and I am on the youth board of Millennium Kids. I've been a member since 2017, where I joined Millennium Kids during the Vic Park consult with Audric, and then from there I started going to regular meetings. I've been involved with Green Lab, focused on redesigning urban drainage systems and green spaces, and one of my main projects is trying to create habitat for black cockatoos. Yeah. I've faced many barriers with this part, mostly because of my age, because, you know, who's going to listen to a kid? I've faced these challenges and it's been hard, but, you know, getting there. I've done youth consultation at East Vic Park Primary School, which was my old school, and I've held a platform with stakeholders, collaborated with government agencies and youth leaders to discuss and develop urban greening projects, and I've had 4 project sites so far, but none of them have actually worked. I've had my own funding issues. I've been given funding but then had it taken away, and last year in October I went to Washington DC to speak at the World Forum of Urban Forests as the first under 18 speaker in the history of the event. I've become skilled in making things for decision makers. Like with one of my project sites, we had made a little information packet and then sent it to Metronet, and surprisingly they've actually taken on some of the recommendations, and one of them hopefully will include a flying fox, which I know lots of kids and the adults really wanted, but I'll believe it when I see it. I want my flying fox, Metronet. My advocacy is a part of a larger wave of youth activism addressing climate change and other global challenges. We emphasise the risks of excluding youth from decision making, such as missing out on fresh insights, innovative solutions, and a holistic perspective. This exclusion perpetuates disenfranchisement and the divide between generations. The diversity of youth perspectives is a very valuable asset because, you know, we'll be living in the world once all of you are gone. Dark, I know. And our insights provide a multifaceted understanding of our complex world, which is crucial for crafting sustainable solutions. Having youth involved will also give them skills later in life. I've learned public speaking, canopy mapping, community engagement, data analysis, and research, and also some sick kayak skills. And I'm pretty sure my work with Millennium Kids is part of the reason why I'm currently doing my TAFE certificate and why I got work experience at the City of Canning. So thank you, Millennium Kids. The benefits of having youth in decision making include empowering them and infusing plans and policies with energy and innovation. Like Kat said before, when we were doing workshops, we would try to get 50% canopy, and I remember that so many of us were trying to figure out new ways to put trees on tops of roofs and make it so that streets could be filled with them. Initiatives like Green Lab and the Skills for Life process show that young people are architects of change with the capacity to drive transformable impact. As we celebrate the achievements of young advocates such as the works of Greta Thunberg and many others, we recognise that it is imperative to have inclusivity in decision making. We want to actively seek out and amplify youth voices and First Nations people and recognise them as essential partners in shaping our shared future. We want to emphasise that our youth are not just beneficiaries of our efforts, but also architects of the future, who are essential for navigating the challenges ahead. In the face of the polycrisis, the risks of excluding youth from decision-making are far too great to ignore. We want to embrace the insights, passion and innovation of our young generation to foster a more sustainable and inclusive world. Thank you.
I'm really only standing back up here to show you I didn't break a leg. But, you know, break a leg, theatre, they go together, don't they? What I do want to let you know is that Millennium Kids has won World Economic Forum Top Innovator Awards for our work. We also have won the National Banksia Sustainability Award for Best Sustainability Organisation in the small category. But Western Australia, we're seriously lagging in the uptake of this process here. And so the challenge is, as we spent an hour last week reporting to the European Congress on citizens' assemblies, they're looking at our processes and want to take them to Europe. But remember this, in 1995, Europe embraced our processes and are now using them. But we're in 2024 and we're still struggling in WA. Youth voice is a major component in Agenda 25. Check out Agenda 21, Chapter 25, and look at ways that you can embed youth voice and engagement. We didn't take the Greta Thunberg role. We took the sit around the table with the adult role and collaborate so that we can work together for a better future. You now get an opportunity to ask Olwen and I some questions about our processes. And let me tell you, standing up here on the stage when nobody asks a question is a no-no. So dig deep, think like a kid, and challenge us with some of your thinking. Fill up the stage.
Thank you so much. It's great to see kids as, you know, our future involved. I was just wondering which city councils that you're involved in.
Well, great question. We've been partnered with the City of Melville through both Green Lab at school level and at community level through the WA Tree Festival. We have worked with the City of South Perth since 1990. Milieu plantings are actually happening on the 16th of June. We work with various councils, schools and community groups in that area. That's our longest lived case study. We're currently working with the City of Swan on a new model, which is an old model, which is the Milieu model, to join the school projects up with community-based projects so that the children can become future friends of group members. In the Friends of Lake Claremont, we are working towards a partnership with the town of Claremont. We're actually funded by the Department of Communities to look at this need for friends of groups to grow younger membership, and we've done a trial with them, training 12 young leaders 18 to 24 to sit as governance leaders on the Friends of Lake Claremont Committee. And we work with the City of Kalamunda on a Green Lab initiative. We've done consultation for the town of Vic Park on urban canopy, and consultation with the City of Stirling, including young people in their urban canopy processes. If I've forgotten a council, I'm sorry. Oh, yes. My Canning boss is sitting right there. Sorry, Rachel, up the back, and Heather. We did 2 projects with the City of Canning. We've got another project because, you know, kids have got more than one issue. Climate change is the number one. We've got a program called the Agents of Climate Change that we've run at the Shire of Mundaring and the City of Canning. Both of them had outcome projects around trees, and we're now working with the City of Canning and schools, 2 schools, on a case study process of working with schools adopting urban bushland and greening foreshore, and we continue to grow. Thank you. Thanks for reminding me.
I wanted to ask a question to Elwyn.
Go, Elwyn.
What do you think has been your most fun activity that you've done with Millennium Kids that us as local governments could possibly keep doing to get more kids involved?
Honestly, going kayaking on Canning River, that was so much fun. Although I wouldn't recommend you do it for like 3 hours, probably just do it for like an hour and then take a break, then go it again. Kayaking is amazing.
I think the most important thing is to ask the children. Kayaking's on the agenda for some young people. You'll be really pleased to know at 62 years of age, very proudly, by the way, I got a contract the other day to lead a youth advisory council in a regional area. You had to pitch to young people 15 to 20. They had lots of people pitching. You had to put in a tender. We got into the pitch process and I pitched. It was quite lovely, really. Someone in the online said, "Oh, isn't she cute?" Like, you know, look at the old lady, isn't she cute? They then said pitch, and I said, well, I don't know what you want. If you want to do a leadership skills course, what leadership skills do you want? I could design a program for you that's completely irrelevant. Do you like to kayak? Do you want to build a raft? Do you want to go out on country with elders? My pitch to you is, let's have a yarn, you tell me what you want, and then we'll co-design a program. Guess what? We got the contract. The kids said we are sick to death of being told what to do. We don't want to volunteer to plant your trees. We want to learn how to propagate. We want to be part of the decision making. We want to design and innovate. We want to find out why that drain's got syringes in it and we have to stop the tree planting. So our process with young people is actually engaging them exactly the way you would through consultation with adults. They're over being told what to do. They know it's not working.
I'd really like to gather the wisdom of 30 years. Just in a brainstorming session a little while ago, we were thinking about the urban greening strategy and creating the nature link from across Bayswater. And we thought, just as you have, that this is about the future, and we wanted it to come from the kids. So one of the things we immediately found when you're in this situation is that all of our structural planning is around dealing with adults. Yep. And there isn't the capacity to just go out there. You can go and talk to teachers and you can go and talk to schools, but engaging children is not something that is easily done, if I might say that. So we had this wonderful idea of joining with Angela Rossen to go to schools and create a visioning about how we could green the areas around each of the schools for children to make a better life so that into the future they would have a better quality of life. But that's coming from us. That's coming from me. I would really love if that was coming from the children. How do I do that?
30 years. My background's early childhood. It's called student-centred learning. You know, you get kids to ask the big questions, what do they want to learn? And the environment has been on the kids' agenda. The kids have been talking about it every single workshop that we do. We've designed a process that asks the kids, what do you like about your community? What don't you like? What do you want to change? And those questions are pretty fundamental to everything that we do. They're really simple questions. We give them sticky notes. We treat them like responsible decision makers. We do it with 4-year-olds. What do you like about your community? What don't you like? We don't like it when they chop the trees down, Kat. We don't like it where they take the playground out and put a new building in. We don't like the fact that our cricket pitch is going to be a car park. We don't like the fact that the new principal has just bowled through the bushland that we've been looking after for 30 years. We just ask them. And it's a facilitated methodology. We call it Skills for Life. We just make it up as we go. The bottom line is we're treating young people with dignity and respect. We're letting them tell us what they think about the community that they live in, and they come. We would have given up Millennium Kids 30 years ago if children didn't have opinions. My suggestion is you just ask them. It really is, and I'm very happy to share the methodology. We've been poor since 1993. We're still poor, but we're not giving up. Happy to share, Jane.
Thank
Hello,
you.
Sandy.
Hi. I've got a question. It could be a tricky one. Ayla has very kindly put together a forum where we're discussing with a number of different groups the urban greening strategy. And I think one of the challenges that's repeatedly come up is that a lot of grown-ups unfortunately don't care about trees in their neighbourhoods and want to take them down. How do we, but you know, obviously kids love trees. How do we inject some kids' point of views into this question, and how do we help change the minds of a lot of grown-ups?
You get brave. In 2000, a very large corporate gave us the opportunity to actually run a leadership program for adults. An adult asked a kid, so what's your triple bottom line? The 10-year-old looked at me like, oh boy, here we go again, the smarty pants adult trying to rip off a kid. And he said, what's the triple bottom line? And of course, we all know what a triple bottom line is. And the kid said, yeah, we got a triple bottom line. And I was like, oh boy, here we go. Have fun. Because if you're looking after your community, that's the social bit. Eat chocolate. Because if you've got enough money in the bank to buy chocolate, then you're doing okay. Care for the environment, because that's our core business. I suggest you call me, Sandy, because we've got young people at university who are now trained facilitators ready to roll, thanks to Jeanette and her 2 years training behind doors during the pandemic that went on forever. My suggestion is give it a go. You know, it's terrifying to put children in power because they speak it as we have forgotten how to. They ask the big questions and they hold the adults to account. I've just come back from 2 months in the Basque region looking at sustainable development, sustainable cities, and the practices that they put in. In 1985, they started. About the time I started thinking that maybe environment should be included in the school curriculum. They have 5 green spaces that they started building. They've got ring roads, they've taken out roads, they've greened their paths. They've done all the things that we've been talking about for 30 years. My suggestion is if you put children in your committees, it will change the conversation, because simply having a young person at the table gets you thinking about what you're doing this for. We're really up for contracts. Our young people get paid, by the way. Our trained facilitators get paid by the hour. They have grown up with a different mindset to me, which was to volunteer your heart out. Young people want to be at the table, but they actually want to be respected like other professionals around the table. So, yeah, let's have a chat about it, because we've got 30 years experience. We get employed overseas. Thanks to Stormwater WA for paying us today. It's very exciting, really. Yeah, I probably had a little, had a little something at the back. Let me just make sure that we've said it. Oh, that's yours. Conclusion, talking points. I feel as though I wrote David Caddy's speech. I didn't. It says, it isn't 2071, but just imagine for 1 minute that you don your superpower cape and make these ideas real. Canopy targets in each LGA supported by state government, partnerships to revegetate sumps, she's still got it on the agenda, drains like we did with Water Corp at Weld Square 10 years ago, wetlands, open spaces and streetscapes, that we are bold enough to take out the car parks and the streets that are not needed and make community zones, that community, state, local government and community groups accept the Children's Challenge to create a vision, to make it real, to protect, monitor and increase canopy to cool our city, working together on a shared vision. Imagine what it could look like if every tree, every revegetated wetland, every piece of bush, every school site had Green Lab custodians in every shape and form. Just imagine what 2071 would look like. Thank you.